All right, everybody. The one word workshop. My one word for this year is devotion. And we're going to be diving into how that one word is going to dictate basically how I handle the rest of the year and potentially how this one word or whatever one word you pick is going to dictate the rest of 2026 for you. And we're going to be going over, as you guys know, some data to back how this approach is impactful, as well as some strategies I utilize not only with the one word workshop that has come from, again, shout out to Rogue Combat Club that invited this practice 3 years ago, I believe now, for me. And again, there's a book based on this that they pulled it from, the one word or your one word. There's a book, there's a journal. We have that in our carousel as well. And basically some additional practices. One I really enjoy as well is from a book Mel Robbins has called The High Five Habit, how we kind of put these things together and utilize them for 2026 or whatever year you're going to be utilizing this for. And I'm going to start with a couple of data points before we jump on into this, dive into the worksheet that goes along with this entire workshop, and then again, continuously pad in with data as well as questions. So if you guys have any questions or anything, feel free to comment. And as always, the first comment on all of our platforms, whether it's live or you're catching the replay, gets a $50 LOF gift card. So keep that in mind. Number one, this time of year, you probably have heard this before, especially if you've seen any of my content around this time of year, but it is 81% of people are going to fail with their New Year's resolutions, especially if it's a resolution that they want to maintain beyond just the 1 year mark. So, and again, this number can range from anywhere from like 91% to an 91 to 82% failure rate, again, depending on what study and what data you look at. But just in general, the traditional way we'll set a New Year's resolution is more than likely going to fail at least 80% of the time. Now, that doesn't mean it's not worthwhile to utilize this time of year. It's just how do we go about it? And that's where the one word workshop and our worksheet's going to come into play. And I'm actually going to pull up the worksheet now, and I'm going to share a little bit of information related to this. And again, if you're watching this, whether live or the replay, you can gain access to the worksheet absolutely for free. You don't even need to buy the one word book or journal, which I do recommend. It's available on a variety of platforms wherever you're watching this. And if you're not seeing a shop or carousel where you're watching this, it's on Amazon as well as on TikTok. But Amazon, from my experience, is the best place to see all this, where I have it all tagged. And again, the one word framework, here's a little bit of a breakdown I want to share with you. The one word framework is simply a way to set direction for the year without overwhelming yourself. Instead of chasing multiple goals, which someone with ADHD and has done this many, many years and many, many times, you choose one word that acts as a compass or a North Star. Sometimes we'll refer to this as for your decisions, your habits, and your priorities. So almost anything you're facing, go back to your one word that we are going to explore today and hopefully arrive at either at the end of this or give you the framework to get to it on your own. But you use this one word to determine the actions. I'll give you a personal example from last year as well as from this year. So my word for 2025 was relentless, especially coming off of Hurricane Helene that happened in September of 2024. I thought for 2025, having the word relentless would be really impactful because of the nature of what we were facing going into the new year and what I anticipated was going to happen. I even made this in a post. It was a really interesting, pivotal moment. We had actually put in an offer that August 2024, right before, the month before the storm hit, myself and my partner had put in an offer on an 8-acre property here in North Carolina. And to be super transparent with you, the numbers, now we approach it, it was just over a $2 million offer. And I'll be honest, I was terrified in an excited way because this is like obviously the biggest risk we were taking. And we were going through a lending process. We didn't have it cash. And honestly, thankfully, it didn't go through because if we did get the offer accepted, they went with our offer and the storm hit, we for sure would have been facing bankruptcy because it would drastically slow down all of the plans and our in-person business dynamic. But that's why, again, I picked relentless for going into 2025 because I knew I would need to be relentless in order to achieve things I had set out based on what we were facing. So again, hard pivot, right? My business took a hit. My partner's business that he owned separately took a hit. So we had to pivot there and being able to really look at taking some different opportunities. I was fortunate enough that I was able to leverage some contract opportunities. Shout out to Shimmer. It was an ADHD coaching platform that I partnered not only myself with, but my business with. So we started to combine fitness opportunities with and became relentless with that coaching pursuit and in our partnerships to bring fitness to a new audience and combine fitness and ADHD in a way that we really hadn't leveraged before. And even I had considered a contract partnership with an organization called Future that, believe it or not, Tom Brady had actually or has invested in and become a board member of, but I decided to walk away from that contract because I felt like it wasn't actually aligning with the relentless pursuit of my own company's growth and what I wanted to provide for myself personally as well as professionally. So again, the point of me bringing that up is the word relentless helped me in a decision-making pivot point. And in a couple of pivot points throughout the year of 2025, when I decided to leave or terminate the contract I had with one of the companies, Future, that my company and myself were working with, that didn't align with the relentless pursuit of growth for my own company, as well as the habits I wanted to create, whether it was in my own strength training, whether it's in my own personal health development, whether it's in my own recovering from injuries, nutrition, and other habits and other priorities and how I wanted to pursue things. So now looking forward and being able to even celebrate because of that relentless pursuit, we've been able to secure health insurance contracts with Aetna, with Blue Cross Blue Shield, with United Healthcare. We're now expanding for Cigna, for other types of organizational practices with Medicare and Medicaid and other organizations as well. And being able to have our first in-person retreat in 2 years, because in 2024, we were going to have one. But again, the storm completely upheaved that in November. So we decided to be relentless in 2025 and pursue and set things up. So February 2026, we're having our next in-person health retreat in Joshua Tree, California. The point of me saying all this is that mindset of being relentless and how I'm going to approach these decisions and how I'm going to approach the priorities here. We wanted to relentlessly pursue the retreat dynamic and the overall integration of medical back coaching. So that's where insurance has come into play. We've now gotten approval from one of our insurance companies for some of the claims we've submitted, which is really exciting. It's a huge pivotal moment where now we know we can bill insurance and they are going to accept our claims and approve them and move them forward. So now we're starting to scale those things and even be able to leverage that with health education and workshops and presentations. So with that being said, let's now dive into some of the dynamics here. You understand, what this one-word framework is and how we can potentially apply it, again, not only in a goal-setting dynamic, any decision or habit you want to set for the year and any priorities, go back to that. And I'll give you a real-world example. This year already, what's come up, the idea of devotion. I've had a personal situation or a pondering come up and how I want to approach things as a father and as a co-parent. And I won't go into the details of what exactly that is, but the question I asked myself was, how does this align with my one word for the year already, devotion? Is what I am facing and what I'm considering aligning with the word devotion? Am I going to embody devotion as a father and as a co-parent and as a partner if I go forward with the decision I want to make in a particular direction? Or if I go in the other direction, does that embody devotion? So again, it helps as a compass to steer through what can be really tough decisions and priorities to set. So now let's actually get into, now you got an idea of how it impacted my last year, how it already impacted this year. Now let's get into what we're actually going to do. How do we arrive at this word? And again, this is my now going on. So that's what, 2022, 23, 24, 25. So yeah, this is going on my 4th year doing this. So I've got lots of reps. I'm a little bit more comfortable. It's easy. I knew what my word was going to be actually probably 2 months ago, but I pondered over it. And here's the questions that I asked. We're going to go one by one. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 5 questions. And then we're going to go over some just other practices and some tools that we're going to utilize in support of this. So number 1, the first question to ask is, what do I want more of in my life this year? So that's what I'll ask all of you, whether you want to answer that in the chat or in the comments or something to come back and go to a replay, bookmark this and ponder yourself. Take anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes, even more. Again, there's no rush to this, but I want to invite you to think about this reflective problem question. What do I want more of in my life this year? I know for me, a key component I want more of is connection. connection with my family, connection with my partner, connection with even in my business, my clients and my team members, and even connection with my own body. I want more connection. And in addition to that, I want to be able to have more freedom. And what I mean by freedom is the ability to take the time that I want with my family and with my loved ones and be able to travel or be able to pivot and shift as necessary, which I'm actually very grateful of. The contracts I've even gained and the work I've put in my own business has afforded me a certain amount of freedom, quite an adaptable schedule already. But always progressing towards that even more. So that's, again, the first question. What do I want more in my life? For me, it's connection. And that's why I come back to what led me and continues to lead me to the word devotion. Number 2, what do I want less of or need to release? This is, again, a really impactful, and I'll keep checking the comments to see if there's any other pieces popping up. But again, the point here is, oh, hey, what's up, Kennedy? I see you, dude. Hey. Being able to factor for not only what you want more of, but what you may want to either leave behind, let go of, or release in the new year. What do you want less of in your life? Maybe you want less stress. Maybe you want less conflict. Maybe you want to release personally. This is where I'll share some personal situations or examples of this. I want to release some of the things I'm holding on to, maybe some of the resentments I have from past experiences or past situations or past relationships or past memories or past actions I've had for my own self. I want to be kind of light and free from those things and release those kind of chains I'm holding myself to from past actions and decisions. That doesn't mean we don't take accountability for them, but we're releasing the burden of it. That's at least my interpretation experience of this. So what do I want less of, or what do I need to release? That also, again, helps me from a devotion. This is even impactful for, I'll be fully transparent, my relationship I'm continuously exploring with God. And I would consider myself continuously a philosophical and spiritually oriented person throughout all of my life, but have sometimes had a void in religion. And even I would say in 2025, I for sure went through like a dark night of the soul where I feel like maybe I was either abandoned by God or I abandoned him, or a combination of the two. And, feel like almost like, whoa, why have you forsaken me kind of a story. And really kind of internally look at my shadows and my own self and my own actions. And yeah, like even the notion behind that, what do I get to release? Do I get to release some of the expectations I maybe had? Do I get to release some of the resentment, again, not only towards myself or others, but even towards God potentially? And this is, again, my story, my version of it. So again, number 1, what do I want more of in my life this year? And then number 2, what do I want less of on the flip side, or do I need to release? Just literally those two things can be really impactful. So again, take your time here. I'm kind of going through them quicker, but if you guys have questions on this, feel free to drop it in the chat, in the comments as well. And I'll slow down. We'll circle back. Or what I would invite you to do is bookmark this, come back to it. Even if you're listening to the replay, pause, take your time, answer this out, have a worksheet, and be able to go through it. Whether it's you're using a, 90-day planner, whether you're using a different type of journal. I have a variety of journals that I've kind of shared in my carousel. I think can be really impactful, whether it's, again, your traditional weekly planner, a blank dot journal, you're using just a like prompting journal, like whatever works for you. I think being able to have something where you physically write it down, or at least have audio notes, I find that's what's cool about content creation for me at this stage of the game, is it's honestly not just about, yes, it's about adding value and connecting with all of you watching this and consuming this, but it's also about me just having a space and a way to just like brain dump to a degree and just get it out there and to create in a way and just like release it. So that's another way of like, how do I release this? So again, pause, take your time, journal, write these things out. And again, we have different things and ways that you could do that in the carousel. Number 3, where have I been inconsistent because I was waiting to feel motivated? That's the key word, motivation. And we know, and I'm sure you can relate to this, motivation is going to be fleeting. It's not something you're going to possess 24/7, 365 days a year. It's going to be fleeting. And that's where you could argue accountability, discipline, or a variety of other tools, even your one word will come into play. But where have I been inconsistent because I was waiting to feel motivated? Is it with your health? Is it with your finances, maybe with your budget? Is it in relationships? Is it within your relationship to God, whatever spirituality, whatever philosophical, you're in your education? Where have you been inconsistent? And mostly because you've been waiting for motivation. And that's where it can become impactful for having a word that is your affirmation that will steer you when you face those walls, when you face that challenge of I'm not feeling motivated. For example, I'll give you a perfect real-time example. This morning, I wanted to sleep later than what I did. And my word again is devotion. So I was like, you know what? If I sleep in, I have a goal I set with Carrie is I'm always, if not at least 80% of the time, going to wake up at least an hour before the first thing on my schedule or on her schedule. So for example, if we have to exchange the kids at 8:15, I'm up at least at 7:15. If I have a call at 8 o'clock, I'm up at least 7 o'clock. If we have something at 7, I'm up at 6. And more likely, like honestly, Hope is up at 6 to 7 every day anyway. So, and I got to give props to Carrie, and this is where I got to give her flowers. Like she's really been handling a large portion of that, if not 80 to 90% of the time. Like there's obviously like we'll rotate to a small degree, but that's where I get to start going, acting in devotion, where I get to step up and be devoted to my partner and relieve some of that pressure and be devoted to my children and be able to step up in a different, specifically my baby and my youngest child. Cause the other kids, they'll sleep in a little bit more, but again, where have I been inconsistent? And especially with motivation is like being consistent with my wake up time and wanting to feel motivated to wake up. So I use like what feels devoted or an act of devotion is waking up when I said I was going to wake up, because then I can tag in and support Carrie and have connective time with her and be able to say, hey, we don't have to rush before the next thing. So again, being able to see where there's inconsistency in your life. And this is what's really important with all of these is like being brutally honest. So I have no problem being honest and calling myself out, even in a like more public platform online, live streaming, whoever's watching this. I could honestly have less resistance to that nowadays. Some of it's still embarrassing, and I'm like maybe have some guilt around like, yeah, I'm not the best partner where like I don't wake up every single day. And Carrie's like waking up more than I am early with Hope, for example. But the point is being able to face it and being honest with yourself. That's an important practice to this. So doing it maybe even privately, or maybe it helps to do it in a more public fashion or group setting. Maybe even a body doubling session. I'm happy to make a body doubling session where it's not like live streaming. We'll do it on a private Zoom call if we have enough response for that as well. Then number 4, what patterns keep showing up in my health, work, school, or relationships? Basically, what patterns do you notice keep showing up? For me, an interesting pattern that, again, I'll go back to the same thing of like where we're like inconsistent is my, let's say, temptation to stay up late, because that's where I get the quiet time after parenting and running my business. And then that bleeding into my ability to wake up early that next morning, and my partner not feeling I'm a, let's say, 50-50 supportive partner. Whether it's with Carrie or even my ex, if I'm calling myself out, like I'm sure they'd have that feedback of like, hey, dude, I didn't really feel like you were a great partner. You can be a great dad, you can be a great parent, but like you're not a great partner because I'm left out to dry, waking up early all the time or waking up in the middle of the night or things like that. And that's a pattern I notice keeps showing up in my relationships where like I can be a better partner in general, and I can tag in, not necessarily like financially, that's obviously less of an issue, I would say. But it's really where feeling supportive when things are tough, when like I struggle with not getting a lot of sleep. I'm kind of a baby like that, or at least that's the story I have. So that's where I've been a inconsistent person and also have a pattern showing up where I struggle. Another aspect with, let's say, my health, a pattern I can find is a little bit of a cyclical pattern, depending on the seasons and also depending on the time of year, where I'll put on a little bit of body composition, a little bit of body fat, especially around the holidays from like October to January, and then being able to want to spend time shedding it off. But what I've focused on, especially last year with Relentless, is not falling into that same pattern and recognizing, okay, where does this come up? Ever since I retired from fighting, what are some of the tendencies I notice? And then how can I adjust that, make them sustainable habits and prioritize that? And that's been really impactful. And I've seen that with medication I've utilized, from even balancing out working with my doctors, being able to see supplementation, exercise, stress management, journaling, all these types of things. So again, noticing the patterns. And then even in work or in business where I'm like, I can sprint for a quarter and then I pull off. I would like back off. That goes back to the word for 2025, which was being relentless. Instead of sprinting for the first quarter and then chilling for the second and the third quarter and sprinting again for the fourth, is I'm going to pick a relentless pace that I'm going to maintain every single week, every single month for the entire year. And what does that yield? And that's what's been really impactful for me, is like, I love using these like 90-day planner books, because my goal is, even if I don't have a perfect day or an outstanding day, my goal was to every week have what we would categorize as an outstanding week, where you get a certain amount of points for doing your task at the end of the week, you add them up. So I've had an outstanding week every single week in 2025. I did an entire year of an outstanding week. Now, not every day was outstanding. I had some days where like I didn't get an outstanding day for whatever reason, but week in and week out, I had that consistency and relentless pursuit to be able to have an outstanding week. And that was the measurable for me. And we'll go into some of the aspects of measurable that become important in that. But it's, again, being able to recognize the patterns. And that's where the one word helps us with that. And then number 5, lastly, what word would help me make better decisions when life gets hard? And we'll dive into that again. It's just recapping, steering us in a direction to a word. What I also found helpful as a part of this, there might already be a word or a couple words jumping out at you based on these questions. Write them down and then look up synonyms for those words. Look at the definitions and really start to think about and sit with those words. Even meditate, maybe pray, whatever it is your thing is, but don't rush. Take your time on this one and give it at least 24 hours. So you can maybe share in the chat if you want to. If you're watching this live or you're watching a replay, I would love to hear what your one word may be and to see what comes of that. But at the end of the day, also being able to take your time and not rushing through that and being able to see what actually adds value for you at the end of the day. That's an important piece. So again, to recap all of the different questions or our prompts here, because we have, again, 5, and these are just, again, I try not to overwhelm it, but these become impactful, and it's important to take your time and be clear on them. Number 1, what do I want more of in my life this year? Because again, it has to tie back to even if we think about how do we create a habit? What's the anatomy? And I've done, again, different talks on this. What's the anatomy of making a habit? We have 4 checkpoints. 1 is a cue. It's a prompt for us. It's my alarm going off in the morning, but then I get to make a decision. And the important thing is the why, the craving we're addressing. So that's what this question asks. What do I want more of in my life? What am I craving more of? What does this really come back down to? What's my why? If we don't have that, no matter how much you set up your systems, you will not most likely have success in a sustainable way. So getting very clear on what you want more of in your life. On the flip side, what do you want less of, or what do you need to let go of? And that's a practice in and of itself. If you carry the same backpack of trash or of weight from the last year into the new year, it's going to be really hard to create maybe a new workflow, new habits, a new version of to transform yourself. If you're carrying old versions of yourself, and as someone that's a hoarder, I would categorize as myself being a hoarder. I love to hold on to things. This one becomes really impactful. And again, I get to practice this. This is like, again, when I think about these things, am I making space? Am I holding on to things? It's like, well, what does having devotion look like for 2026? And last year's, what was being relentless look like? Relentlessly going through my even wardrobe and just like dropping things I haven't worn in like a year or 3 months or 6 months, whatever that looks like. So again, what do we want more of in our life? What do we want to have less of and let go of? Where have I been inconsistent because I was waiting to feel motivated? And this is going back to a habit loop and creating a habit as an anatomy. You have a cue, you have a craving, and then you have the action, and then you have a reward that reinforces this loop. But the interesting thing I've learned working with ADHD oriented or neurodivergent brain chemistries especially, but this can also translate really well to everybody, but specifically for my neurodivergent peeps out there, is utilizing dopamine before you even do the thing. Meaning give yourself some extra quote unquote motivation or brain signaling to help you do that. So if you look at where have I been inconsistent and then utilizing some dopamine strategies to do that. So for example, we have a cue, waking up in the morning, my alarm goes off. My craving is I want to be a devoted partner and have strong relationships with my spouse, as well as with my kids and with myself. Or maybe I want to wake up early so that I have time to work out, whatever that is. That's the craving. It's got to be there. But before I go into the action, because I could choose to go back to sleep. And if my craving isn't strong enough, I will more than likely go back to sleep. But even if my craving is strong enough to set myself up for success, I'm also going to pair it with a dopamine-oriented task. Maybe that means I'm going to use the foot massager really quick, or I'm going to have my favorite cup of coffee in the morning, or I'm going to again, light a candle, or I'm going to have a playlist that I put on that wakes me up, that gives me some dopamine. Give my spouse a hug because she's already up in the morning, or give my baby a hug that helps me wake up so that I'm not feeling resentment towards the children, for example. But being able to do something that gives us dopamine is a really strong tool. Then do the actual action. And then again, reward yourself. Sometimes just doing the task, crossing off your list, being able to go back to your planner and checking it off, that's the reward. But being intentional with whatever that reward is and making sure there's a reward there. And I call it making a dopamine sandwich or a reward sandwich. So you do something that motivates you before, playing music, lighting a candle, giving someone a hug, whatever. And then you do your task, and then you give yourself extra dopamine after to really reinforce creating that routine or habit. So again, that's number 3. To recap, what do I want more of in my life this year? What do I want less of or need to release? Where have I been inconsistent because I was waiting to feel that motivation that we're now troubleshooting with the dopamine as well as our word? And then what patterns keep showing up in my life, whether it's work, health, education, school, relationships, finances, whatever it is? What are the patterns that keep showing up? Like I thought once I made 6 figures, like cool, once I make 100 grand a year, all my problems go away financially. And that is not the case. And I'm going to be super transparent with you guys. From a business standpoint, revenue wise, we've done 100 grand every year since I want to say 2020 or 2021. I might have to double check the books on that. Maybe even before that, 2018, but it's been at least 5 years. Now, not profits have always shifted potentially depending on what's going on. And I'll be really honest with you guys. In 2025, we were like negative $40,000, like from a profit standpoint. That was the first time I was negative in a profit in like a decade. But being able to realize the hurricane had an impact, taking out loans to get through it, all the things that were going on. And now it's finally led to, because of that relentless pursuit, being able to come out into 2026 devoted to the systems we've built and being able to have these new opportunities that have come from that. So the point is, if you notice patterns, there's something to be gained from that. We get to look at that. And then lastly, what word can help me make better decisions when life gets hard, when I don't want to wake up when I'm tired, or when I don't want to go to bed because I feel overwhelmed and I need a little bit of me time. Or one thing that I'll share again personally is where in finances, I can be really disciplined for a period of time, for like 100 days of like budgeting, but then you know what? I'm stressed out. I've had a hard day, like whatever. I'm going to go splurge and go have dinner with the kids when the plan was to not do that. Or like, let's say I have like $100 a day budget for everything, all expenses. And I've already spent that $100 a day, but you know what? I'm going to spend an extra $50 on this thing because X, Y, or Z. That can be a potential pattern. I get to look at that. So being able to say, hey, for me, and this is why I love the word devotion, is I'm devoted to whatever my well-being component is. I'm devoted to my financial health. So if I'm devoted to that, that means not only am I doing it begrudgingly, but I'm doing it with passion, especially when I don't think anyone's looking. Even if Carrie's not looking at my finances, my accountants aren't looking in that moment, I know what I'm doing and I get to take accountability and I get to look at that. I think that's a really powerful why I pick devotion. And again, I would invite you to take your time with this word and being able to then arrive at my one word is, and then pair that with my definition of this word is. Not only look up the definition, but then using your own definition for it. So my one word is devotion. My definition of this word is pursuing it as a paraphrase, like this is my version of that, is pursuing it as if no one's looking and with passion. So I'm doing it as if I don't think anyone's watching, not for any other credit or whatever. And I'm doing it with passion, not begrudgingly. Or what I've seen a pattern show up for me is I can just go through the motions of getting a task done. And I can get it far enough where like it looks good, but I want to, even this, I was actually genuinely excited. When I have other live streams or other pieces of content, if I'm not feeling it, I adjust how I'm approaching it, whether it's with meditation, maybe I reschedule it or whatever goes on. Because to me, that's more important than just going into it just to check something off this box. I'm genuinely excited to talk about this and share this with you guys. And that's, I hope that comes across in how I approach this. And now, so we have our definition, we have our word. Now let's apply this word daily. So answering a couple of these pieces. If I lived this word in my health, it would look like. If I lived this word in my relationships, it would look like. If I lived this word in my work or purpose, my ikigai, maybe it's school for you right now, it would look like. On my hardest days, my word means I will. And when I pause, that's where you would fill it in. And then lastly, this year, I commit to living my word, not perfectly, but consistently. And the theme here at LOF that I've seen impactful is 80%. You do not have to be perfect, nor will you be perfect. But if you can do it 80% of the time, that is massive. But again, circling back to applying this daily. So if I live this word in my health, it would look like for me personally getting 5,000 steps a day, doing at least 2 minutes of jujitsu drills, at least 2 to 3 minutes of Muay Thai drills, and at least 2 minutes of strength training, and at least 2 minutes of mobility work on a daily basis. And then in addition to that, in the nutrition, that's like movement, and kind of like how I can move my body. But then in addition to that, nutritionally, it would look like drinking at least 100 ounces of fluid every day and at least eating 150 grams of protein and at least getting 30 grams of fiber. These are things that, again, I'm not doing. These aren't all new things, by the way. These are things I've built up over the years, over the last year. Because one of the things, if you've heard any of my content, I do not advise trying multiple things all at once. You do one thing at a time. And we'll get into the data on that because I have a variety of data points I'm going to share related to this. And if I live this word in my relationships, it would look like sticking to my commitments. When I say I'm going to wake up, I wake up. For me, it's waking up an hour before I have to in my alarm so I can tag in with Carrie, with the children, with whatever responsibilities, so we can have connection time. Being able to tag in as a partner. So that's how it looks like in my relationships with Carrie specifically. It looks like all my relationships is connection. So being able to reach out and be able to have daily, I have 1 hour where I have connection with a loved one, whether it's Carrie, whether it's a family member, a friend. Every day I'm spending at least 1 hour connecting with someone outside of myself. And it can be my kids, but that's how I'm going to be devoted to my relationships. And if I live this word in my work, in my ikigai, in my purpose, with my business, it would look like, and this honestly is the easiest one for me, but I'll be super transparent. In my coaching, sometimes even in my content and in anything that I'm doing, I'm thinking about the next thing, what's coming next, or like what's another task I have to manage, is being present. If I live this word in my ikigai and my purpose, it's being present during my work, whether it's during coaching calls, during meetings, during content creation. I'll give you 2 examples. Tomorrow, perfect example. I have coaching calls that I'm going to be jumping onto. It's being present with those, like not thinking about the next call, not thinking, when I have to jump off. It's being present with that coaching client in a one-on-one or a group setting. I also have a work Zoom call with our hosts and our guests we're bringing out to the retreat that are going to be leading workshops. It's being present for that. Not thinking about, what do I have after this? What do I have before this? Being present. That's what it looks like for me. And on my hardest day, devotion means I will do it with love and passion as if no one is looking. That's what it looks like for me. So when I'm feeling tired, I can already tell you I'm probably going to be tired tomorrow because I'm coming off like a vacation time over the last 10 days. I've still been working and whatnot and doing different things. I've been staying up later, sleeping into 8, 9 o'clock instead of 6 or 7 o'clock. So being that I'm going to wake up tomorrow at 6 to 7, where I'm used to over the last 10 days, it's been 8 to 9, that's my devotion on my hardest days. I get to stay devoted to my commitment and waking up and tagging in, but also being able to support, for example, Carrie actually normally works tomorrow as another example of this. She's not. She was scheduled not to work. So I'm like, cool, we're going to have a date. We're going to have a planner day. We're literally going to plan out all of 2026 and go over things together. But the other thing is, because she's not working, I could go the route of hey, normally I would put Hope to sleep because you're working on nights on Monday. I'm used to putting Hope to sleep. Hey, I'm going to put Hope to sleep. I'm devoted to getting you some support here. You do whatever you want, whether that means you meditate, you take a nap, you hang out with your sister, you go see friends. Maybe she rests because she's not feeling good. But I'm going to put Hope to sleep, right? That's me, in my opinion, on those hardest days when I'm like, dude, I've had a long Monday, I'm tired, whatever. That's me being devoted. So I'm just sharing these again as examples of what this can look like. It can be different for everybody, but this is just where I would invite you to think about all this. And this year, I commit to living my word, not perfectly, but again, consistently, 80% of the time. So again, if you want this worksheet, just again, feel free to either shoot an email, comment on this, shoot a DM. We're going to have it on our website as well. And then when you're checking for our blog post, we're gonna have the blog post up this week. I'll have a form you can opt in on and just download it. It's going to be a Google Drive form. It's free. You'll be able to access it. We'll shoot you an email. You'll be good to go. But it'll be up on the blog post once we have that repurposed, because I'm obviously doing this live, but once we have it up, it'll be chopped up and put on our blog. You'll be able to access that. We're also going to send it out to our newsletter. So if you haven't already, subscribe to our newsletter. Now, that's pretty much the one word in and of itself. Now let's go over some interesting data points on why this strategy becomes so impactful. Again, I mentioned before, 80 to 90% of New Year's resolutions fail by the end of the year, especially when they're more than a 1 year kind of a goal. They're not really going to set us up for success. Number 2, when we're setting more than one goal at a time, the success rate exponentially drops off. It goes from above 80% success rate when you have one goal you're focusing on at a time, for example, embodying devotion or whatever the one strategy is, to when you have two, it'll drop below 70. When you have three, it'll drop below 50, and it just really plummets after that. So if you're trying to eat more protein, drink more water, exercise more, go to bed earlier, wake up earlier, you're doing 5 things, you're almost guaranteed going to fail. But if you're saying, I'm just going to drink 16 ounces of water within the first hour of waking up, a really high success rate potentially of that. So that's the other part, is picking your word to help apply it to whatever the decision, your habit, or your priority you're focusing on. Just do one thing at a time, especially when it's new. If it's already become a habit, that's different. And speaking of habits, this is an interesting piece. Habits take longer than people expect, and they vary a tremendous amount, or a varying degree. So they can range anywhere from 18 days to up to 250 days. On average, it's about 67 days. That's why when we do our 100-day coaching program, we accounted for that and made it 100 days, so that if you do hit 60 days and you got your habit, cool, we have time to wiggle and adjust and refine. And even if in the 100 days you don't, we give you a coaching support system to move thereafter, and we stay with you for up to that year thereafter. Now with insurance, it's not only, hey, we'll stay with you for the year, you can be with us for years now. Now, the goal is to do it within the 100 days, though, because I always tell this to everybody, I don't want you to need me or my coaching team. But again, habits can take longer. If your plan assumes motivation will be necessary for 2 months straight, it's not realistic. If you're assuming you're going to rely on your motivation to get the job done, it's just not a realistic way to approach it. So if you're building a habit and you're relying on motivation, know that you're building it on a faulty foundation, just in general, because habits, A, are going to take longer, and B, you're more than likely going to run out of motivation. So utilizing things like a one word, that's an affirmation, coming back to your why, having practices around it. And then that pairs really well with identity-based goals are drastically more impactful than a outcome-oriented goal. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is the identity is, I'm a devoted father, I'm a devoted coach, I'm a devoted man, I'm a devoted partner, I'm a devoted health-oriented human being. That is an identity that is easier to access and sustain than I want to be 15% body fat. Even if I want to be 15% body fat in the next 100 days, which is a specific, measurable, can be attainable for me. I know it's relevant to what I care about. It's time sensitive. It's a smart goal, but it's not identity oriented. But if it's, I'm a devoted father that gets to be 15%, but now we're starting to combine those two things. And again, the identity aligned goals show higher long-term adherence and sustainability than outcome goals alone. So value-based framing increases goal persistence, especially under stress. When things and ish hits the fan, that's where you're going to have consistency with your identity. When behavior supports identity, it lasts longer, especially under pressure. So just to pause on that, think about it. When we're taking this one word and we're utilizing this every year, you're now making it a part of your identity, okay? And it's strengthening your resolve. So I'm a integrous, relentless, devoted human. Over the last 3, let's say going on 4 years, those are some of the words I've used. Integrous, relentless, those are my last 2 years. Now this year, devoted, those are the last 3 that really stick out to me. I don't just after a year, I let it go. I keep that as part of my identity if it served me, and it has. Being integrous has served me. Being relentless has served me. I keep that going, and now I go with the devotion component into that new year. So now, again, language too. Identity language increases our action. So it's not just using that identity, it's how we talk about it. That's where, again, using that affirmation. This, we're going to tag in the Mel Robbins strategy of the high five habit, which I'm going to get to here in a minute. So I want to pause, see if there's any questions that jump out to us here. Doesn't look like we have any questions. Okay, I see you. Hello, Michael. What's going on? Doesn't look like we have any additional questions, though. So lastly, here's one more I do want to throw at you. I guess technically 2 more. Is self-monitoring improves adherence up to 40%. So what does that mean, self-monitoring? So A, we have identity. We know creating an identity around this is impactful. And I've mentioned this in the past. Self-monitoring improves adherence up to 40%. Personally, I love taking pictures. So taking pictures of what I'm eating, videoing, or taking pictures of my workouts, not even to share, just for me to document, writing the workouts down. being able to use planners, the different planners that I have here, whether it's shadow work, whether it's like daily journals, whether it's setting intentions, whether it's my daily and weekly planner, whether it's using my dot journal, whether it's using my day-to-day planner, maybe it's my stoic journal. I literally have like 4 different journals I use on a daily basis for different things, but being able to monitor improves the adherence up to 40%. And they've become pretty much habits for me. So tracking the performance improves consistency 30 to 40%. And again, maybe that's using a watch, right? Tracking my steps. I mentioned that before. Tracking my protein by taking pictures. If you use our LOF app, and we have our LOF GPT, you can take pictures of it and feed it to our AI, and it can guess how much protein you're taking in, how much fiber you're taking in. You can log it on our app. We have tools to actually monitor these things that are like, again, you got to love technology, man. But if you want to keep it simple, just pay attention and write it down in a journal and track it. But whatever it is, you don't have to overcome, like pick one thing you're going to track. Maybe it's your steps, maybe it's your water, maybe it's your protein, but just pick one thing. You're going to track it. You're going to have 40% more success by doing that. And then lastly, small habits outperform big resets. So habit-based micro changes in this particular study that was done by the American Journal of Preventive Medicine found people lose 8.4 pounds of overall weight after 32 weeks versus the control group that lost roughly a pound by doing habit-based micro changes. Let me give you an example. So small, boring habits beat dramatic New Year resets every time. For example, in our 28-day reset, our 100-day protocol, we incorporate drinking half of your body weight in fluid ounces. If that doesn't feel micro enough for you, let's say that's too overwhelming. Hey, I want you to drink 8 ounces the first hour of waking up. Those are the micro kind of habits you build versus, oh, I'm going to drink a gallon of water every day. I'm going to exercise twice a day. I'm going to go to bed an hour earlier. I'm going to wake up an hour earlier. That's like already like massive change. And they're all great if you could do them, but they're just more than likely not going to work out for you. It's too big of a change all at once. You're better off, again, making the micro change, which is, hey, I'm going to stop looking at screens an hour or 15 minutes before the normal time I would stop, as the example. Or again, I'm going to drink 8 ounces of water the first hour of waking up. Or I'm going to eat an extra 10 grams of protein at every meal. Or I'm going to go for a 15-minute walk every single day, or at least 2 times a week. Whatever the micro version of it feels and looks like. I always invite look at 2 to 5 minutes. 2 to 5 minutes on a daily basis have shown to rewire our brain chemistry. And again, when we look at what it can have an impact on our body composition, this also shows the impact as well. Start small and build versus the temptation to be like, I'm going to do 75 hard, which I think 75 hard is great. But how many times do people fail 75 hard? Or even if they do it, how many times do they like lose some weight and then don't keep it off? And if you do, great. Like I've lost 50 pounds when I was 16 and I've kept it off for 22 years. So I'm telling you, as someone that's done this and kept 50 pounds off for basically 2 decades. Now, again, I've lost and gained, and then I've lost more. I've lost 100 pounds. I've gone from like 250 pounds to 150 pounds. And I've competed at 155 pounds as a fighter. I've competed at 175 pounds, and I've even competed up to 200 pounds as a competitive athlete in grappling to Muay Thai and everything in between. I walk around about 200 pounds. Sometimes it goes up to 210. Sometimes I'll go as little as 185, but I will stay around 200 pounds. That's where I feel good. Depending on what's going on, I'll ebb and flow. But my point is I've kept 50 pounds off for 20 years. And what I've seen is, and I've played with different resets and protocols and different things like that. And we still utilize different versions of this, even in our own book. We do a 7-day reset where you do 24 hours of fasting and then 24 hours of feeding. You can do that. But the goal is to have, and what we incorporate even after doing that, after a week of doing that, is sustainable small micro changes you maintain for ever, basically. The goal is to have sustainability that you can adhere to 80% of the time the rest of your life. And then you can go through cycles where we do 90% adherence, 100% adherence, and you rotate through it. So that's like all of the kind of data as well in the recaps. I kind of featured some of the books, but that's pretty much going to do it. What I can also tell you, I'm going to give you guys like peel back the curtain. I was going to do this actual live stream like 2 hours from now, but Baby Hope is not feeling so hot. And this is where I go back to being a devoted father, being a devoted partner, and not just being a devoted business owner. I was going to go to my sister-in-law's with Carrie. We're going to have dinner. We're going to come back to do the live stream at 8:15. Hope is going to be in bed. It's going to be easier. But Baby Hope is not feeling great. So I did the live stream earlier. Appreciate you guys jumping on. And I can already hear her in the other room. Carrie's trying to put her to bed. I can hear this going on. And I can hear she's having a hard time. So this is where I'm tempted to want to stay on for another 20 minutes with you guys and go over products and tagging more things. But I get to be not only a devoted content creator, devoted coach, a business owner where I showed up for you guys. I'm passionate. I'm excited. Now I can feel myself getting pulled and getting somewhat distracted, where I don't feel like I'm actually showing up in the best version, and I'm just going to kind of be going through the motions here. So what I've learned is to, instead of doing that, I'm going to pause here. I'm going to thank everybody. Thank you for tuning in, joining. If you're watching the replay, if you're watching this live, I would even say circle back to this. Watch the full thing, pause it, go through the worksheet, go onto our blog post, download the worksheet for free. And also, if you want to, join us in Joshua Tree this February 2026. We're taking spots. We have about 10 spots filled. We got 15 more that you can come to in person. You can now leverage your insurance to cover your trip. And all you got to pay is cover your flight getting out there, or however you're going to get out there. But you can use your insurance to cover the coaching and the health education and all the stuff we got going on out there, as well as the remote pass we're going to be having. If you want to see more on that, go to our website. But I'm going to go tag in, be a devoted father, be a devoted partner, and I appreciate you guys. Cheers. Have a happy new year. Happy 2026. And again, whether it's 2026 or you're watching this years down the road or even halfway through the year, you could do this at any time. But the goal to this is picking a word as an affirmation that secures and locks in how you approach your decision-making, your priorities, your habits. It's your compass. It's your North Star. It's your guiding. It's your principle. And that's what I found really impactful. So that being said, cheers, everybody. Appreciate you guys. There we go.